Hi, Waypoint friends. This week for Read and Reflect, we're looking at Jeremiah chapter 33, verses 1 through 3. Then the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah the second time, while he was still confined in the court of the guard, saying, Thus says the Lord, who made the earth, the Lord who formed it to establish it. The Lord is his name. Call to me, and I will answer you, and I will tell you great and mighty things which you do not know. When I think about these verses, I think about them on two different levels. The first level is the promise that God makes to Jeremiah the prophet. Call to me, and I will tell you great and mighty things. And I think about that as being a promise from God that when we find ourselves in circumstances that we don't understand, circumstances that are hard and difficult, God actually invites us to call out to him with our questions. And he promises that he will give us direction, he will give us guidance, he will give us his wisdom. I find that to be very comforting. As we all know, this has been a tough couple of years, and we often find ourselves in places that we don't understand everything that's going on. But God promises that if we will call out to him, he will be faithful and show us from his word, his heart for us, his mind, and his direction. The other level that I think about these verses has to do with the context in which they were written. If you heard the first verse, this came to Jeremiah while he was still a prisoner, still confined in the court of the guard. Jeremiah is often referred to as the weeping prophet because God had given him some very difficult, tough messages to give to God's people at a time when they had been in rebellion to him. And God had raised Jeremiah up to deliver a word of judgment, a word of correction, to tell God's people that there were consequences for their turning away from him. And while there were other voices telling them that everything was going to turn out okay, everything was going to be all right, and that God would get them out of all their difficulties, it was Jeremiah's message from God to tell them, no, there is going to be a difficult season. The city of Jerusalem will be conquered and captured. You will be led off into captivity. And there will be a period of time where God will be teaching you things over time. That was a message they didn't want to hear. So as I think about these two verses and these two different levels, it reminds me that God always promises to hear my voice and to respond when I call out to him. But there are going to be those times when, for myself or for other people, God's message may be a message of reproof, a message of correction, a message of confronting areas of my life or speaking truth gracefully into the lives of others that's hard truth to accept and to hear. But at the same time, he promises that he'll give us his Spirit to not only speak truth, but to speak grace. So my prayer for you is that as you find yourself in difficult circumstances, or as you're walking alongside of someone who's having a hard time, you will call out to God with the questions and wait for God's response to come to you, and then have courage to put what he tells you into action. Have a terrific week.